Good evening. It's the 15th day of March 2021, soon to be the 16th. It's going to be a very short video, but it's on one of the benefits of federal employment and specifically law enforcement employment. And I'm going to entitle this video, How to Become a Millionaire as a Federal Law Enforcement Officer and Remain Honest in the Process. That's the key thing. Remain honest in the process, okay? As a federal employee, any kind of federal job actually, but particularly law enforcement, you have to remember that your pay for most federal law enforcement jobs will involve not only your base pay, which is whatever pay grade you're at, but you'll also get locality pay. Now, in many federal agencies, and that would include FBI, DEA, ICE, Secret Service, Border Patrol, Customs and Border Protection. You will also receive what's called law enforcement availability pay, which is 25% of your salary added on in order to compensate for your overtime, which is really not controllable. And in most of those agencies, you will have a take-home vehicle. So you have a vehicle to go to work in, take home, but you're on call 24/7. That's the bad side. Or it's a good side, depending on what you want. In other agencies, such as the Park Police or the Capitol Police or whatever, you're going to be working more of a fixed shift. But either way, you're going to be making a fairly good salary. And as a federal employee, one thing that I would recommend that you do, as a matter of fact, if you don't do it, you're an absolute fool, in my opinion. Contribute to a program called the Thrift Savings Program. You can put as much of your money into that as you wish, and that is tax deferred. But at a minimum, be sure to put 5% of your salary into the Thrift Savings Program, because the government will match that a dollar for dollar up to 5%. And then that investment you can then place in the Thrift Savings Program. It'll be in the Thrift Savings Program. You can invest it in any number of accounts. And I'll show you a chart in a few moments on the different accounts, but those accounts range from government bonds, the G fund, which is the least remunerative. You don't make a lot of money in that because the interest rates are fairly low. I put my money in the C fund, which is the common stock fund. It's tied to the Standard & Poor 500, and in the small caps fund. Okay, and I would highly encourage that you do, especially if you're entering the federal service, put it into one of these stock funds and pretty much forget about it. Just leave it in the stock market. You're going to be in the federal service 20 to 30 years. Historically, and again, past performance is no guarantee of future performance, but every decade, from the 1920s onward, if you've left your money in the stock market, you're going to go up. Okay? It really has never let anybody down. Where you run into trouble is if you micromanage these funds, and some federal employees do, and they actually have web pages where they try to figure out the markets, and you can change your fund from one month to the next. But what you tend to do when you make these frequent trades is you end up losing money or not getting as much as you could have gotten. And the reason for that is quite simple, and that is the professionals are good at day-to-day trading. They have computer programs that begin selling or buying at a particular time. There's no way you could keep up with all that data in your mind. So my advice, it worked for me. It may not work for you, but I'll tell you what worked for me. I put all my money in the common stock fund, the C fund, tied to the S&P 500. The first year that the TSP, Thrift Savings Program, was available, 1987. When I retired in 2012, I had over $1 million in there. Okay. Now I rolled that over into another IRA account, and that is a good part of your retirement. That, along with, of course, your pension, which you will get, and you'll be eligible for Social Security, which you shouldn't take till you're 70. But there are quite a few TSP, Thrift Savings Program millionaires, and it's a highly recommended thing to do. But put it into a stock fund. Now, does the stock market crash? Yeah, it crashes. Okay, from time to time, it crashed under COVID, but you just keep it in there, and the money's going to come back. Okay, and here you can see a comparison of three funds: the C fund, the S fund, and the I fund. The C fund, the Common Stock Index Investment Fund, which is tied to the S&P 500. The S fund, which is small caps, matched to the performance of Dow Jones. And then the I fund, which is international. And their risk levels are medium for the C fund, medium high for the S fund, high for the I fund. And the rates of return. In the last year, the greatest rate of return has been in the S fund, small cap, seconded by the C fund, thirdly by the I fund. You can get this at the tsp.gov website, by the way. The lifelong returns have been the highest in the C fund, which is 10.88% average, as opposed to 10.24, and then much lower for the I fund. So again, the C fund and the S fund have been around for quite some time, and it'd be my recommendation that you choose these funds. Now, what about other funds? How about if we were going to put it in a bond fund, the government fund, which has absolutely no risk? Okay, well, here's the return on that. The lifetime return since it's begun, has been 4.82, and in the last 10 years, the return is 2.04 versus 13.32 in the C fund. So again, I am not an investment counselor, but I know what worked for me. You'll see that over time, that these funds, it's time tested. This is now almost 40 years since this program has started, and these programs have been, the C fund and the small caps fund, which started in the 1990s. These have been the most lucrative funds to invest your money. So my advice, for what it's worth, and I'm not a financial planner, okay, although I do have one, my advice to you: invest in those funds, use the matching program, and then put it in either the common stock or the small caps, the C fund or the S fund. And in 20 or 30 years, you'll be surprised how much you have in there. Don't take any money out. Don't borrow at all. You don't have to pay any taxes. It's all tax deferred until you take money out. So that is in a very short and sweet presentation how you can become a millionaire as a DEA agent without being corrupt. Okay? Without being corrupt, or an FBI agent or an ICE agent. Okay? You can make a lot of money in these agencies if you are a saver, if you have that discipline to save. And there's no reason not to. I mean, if they're going to match you, at least put 5% in, and that way you get a dollar for a dollar, 5%. You can put as much of your money in there as you want, and it remains tax deferred. But be sure to do that. And if you do that, you'll be much happier when you leave than if you didn't do that. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it's a little motivational if you're planning on a career in law enforcement. And if you're a federal employee, hopefully this will motivate you to invest some money and give you some good pointers as to where to invest. Stay away from the G fund, okay? You don't get much money in that, and it's a safe haven, yes, but you don't get much money. I mean, it's just very, very small interest on bonds right now, and really has been small interest on bonds for a long time. So while you're guaranteed not to lose any money, you're not going to make much money either. So again, this is for what it's worth. It worked for me, and I recommend it. So God bless you. Okay.